Hello and welcome to the Paper Boys podcast. I'm JJ Smith.
And I'm Zach Nally.
We're reporters with the Carteret County News-Times. Today it is just us.
All alone.
All alone.
You'll be okay.
Yeah. Top 10 stories of 2024 is what we'll be talking about today.
We do this at the end of each year when the paper, we look at, what's been going on in the last year and the top 10 stories. And we thought it would be a nice chance to kind of sit around and talk about some of these things in ways that you can't necessarily write about.
A little recap.
Sure. Just to see what 2024 gave us.
So we're going to do it David Letterman top 10 style. We'll start with number 10. And our number 10 story of 2024 was the Croatan boys capturing yet another winter track and field state title. That was 4 in 6 years.
Yeah. And that's the winter track, right?
Yeah. Dude.
That's a lot.
There was a time when I started at the paper. Well, Croatan wrestling at that point was pretty dominant. They were winning state titles on an almost yearly basis. I think they won 3 out of 4 when I started. Because, wrestling, you've got individual tournament and then you've got the duels. I think, they took 3 or 4. So it's not like we haven't seen it before, but winning 4 state titles out of 6 years.
And they didn't win by a little bit. They won by 30 points.
And did so with what at that time Rico Quispe said was pretty much like about as bad as performances they could have had.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Everybody, there was no PRs. Everybody was sick. They had the crud. I think that was the state championship was that Saturday. I think that Monday he sent everybody home because everybody showed up just hacking up a lung. And he was like,
you said Matthew Quispe injured his hamstring during the meet, so this was not full strength.
No, he gets hurt and finishes 5th. I think in a
he goes 15th
in a 500 that he was going to win. Like he was the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
And then he helps 800 meter relay team finish 5th, which they probably would have won. That's the race he got hurt in. It was just everybody. Cooper Stevens was sick. Trey Austin was sick. Luke Nicolaisen was. I mean, they were just riddled with illness, and won. What was the point total you mentioned? 30 points.
Yeah, that's the 30-point was how much they won by.
84.5 to Franklin with 57.5 and Dudley with 53.5.
Wow, that's incredible.
And the year before, they almost won that one, so that would have been 5 in 6 years. But Franklin just barely.
Yeah, they lost that by 8 points.
Right, which
just
is
to show you
somebody
the
winning, one person winning.
That's right.
An event or something.
I always think these winter ones are interesting because how many schools at that state meet do you think have any experience competing in an indoor facility?
I always
throughout that season.
I think, and I think everybody's probably got a theory on this. My thinking is, I think I'm zagging. I think most people think it's harder to win a spring tournament, a spring gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal because. Everybody's doing it.
There's more involved.
Because there's a lot of basketball people that aren't competing
That's right.
And wrestling people too,
sure,
I guess.
Sure. Swimming.
I kind of zag. I think it's maybe harder to win the winter because that's the real deal Holyfield track and field people.
The people who, that's what you do.
If you're competing at a winter track and field state meet, you are looking to do this in college.
That's a good point.
Yeah, you are dialed in. I'm a track and field athlete. I'm out there in December, January, and February.
That's a commitment.
Outdoors, competing. Yeah, those people take it seriously. So I feel like the while you don't have the quantity, the quality is there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we call it winter track. It's really indoor track. We just don't have any indoor facilities.
The News-Times never says indoor for 3 months until the state championship.
Because it seems silly, yeah.
Right.
When
it's outdoors.
It's winter.
Right, yeah.
We don't have anything outdoor until the last meet.
Exactly.
They might have an invitational. They go to JDL or whatever.
There you go.
But I wonder how many are there any schools out there that have indoor track facilities?
That's a good.
Where they are training in the environment that they'll end up competing in.
That's a good question. I don't know. Croatan just competed in boys basketball in the Hoggard Holiday Tournament, and Hoggard's able to host a holiday tournament on campus because they have an auxiliary gym.
There you go.
And I was like, wow, we don't even see that here.
No, not at all.
That's a podcast for another time.
I would imagine you'd be faster indoors when you're used to training against the wind or the conditions.
Well,
or
and
whatever.
the track, maybe it's got a little bit of a rise on the corners,
Sure.
and you got to get used to that, all that kind of jazz. I don't know. So let's see. We had Trey Austin, Cooper Stevens, Luke Nicolaisen, and Matthew Quispe won the 1600. Those four all won the 3200. Nicolaisen won the 300 meters. Drew Walgren won the 1,000. I remember talking to Rico Quispe at the time. That was kind of a fun deal where he wasn't qualified for that, and the week before I think it was just Rico and him and maybe one other person drove up to Virginia Beach.
That's right.
To qualify for that, and then he goes and wins the state title
Whatever
like a week later. That was wild. And Jake Carroll rounded out all the state champs with Paul Vault. So that's a special group. That's a cycle that came through. I think it was 10 seniors on that team. And it might be a while before we see anything like that.
Well, it's not just the athletes that we lost from that group, the 10 seniors.
Right.
We also don't have the coaches.
There you go.
Just to move us along here, number 9 on this list is a Croatan again, and that is the loss of Rico Quispe and Andy Bolfer, no longer coaching at Croatan.
They coach boys and girls cross country. They coach boys and girls winter track and field. They coach boys and girls spring outdoor track and field. And as I was just discussing this with someone this week, they are, and I don't even think it's close, the most successful coaching duo in the history of Carteret County.
It's got to be. I mean, it's one thing to I mean, when you are the face of, I don't want to say 3 different programs, but you're there in the fall, you're there in the winter, you're there in the spring.
At another year, at another season, you're there in the summer.
That's how you go. I mean, you are a staple at that school. And I know Andy was also a teacher as well. So, these are people they were as integrated in the Croatan athletic community as anybody else. But also they won quite a bit.
Since 2017, those 6 teams combined to win 6 state championships.
Yeah, there you go.
And then they finished the runner-up 7 other times. So they're in contention for a state championship 13 times. Unbelievable. We're not going to get into the weeds of what happened other than to say that that last year during the cross-country season, Andy Bolfer was told that his services were no longer required, which was to this day the strangest thing about that. And if anybody from Croatan ever wants to come on the Paper Boys podcast and talk about it, we can give them the address and the time and let them know that we are welcome to discuss it with them. The weirdest thing about that was he continued to teach the entire year.
Yeah.
So you're deemed unworthy to coach these student athletes.
But you can teach.
But you're deemed worthy to teach students.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we're not going to get into it, but there was clearly things happening that the administration felt a certain way about.
Sure.
And then once Andy stepped down, Rico said, well, my kid is a senior, and I only want to coach with him, so I guess we're both out.
They were a package deal pretty much.
That's a major change for this school.
And Rico said that the odds of them stepping down might have happened anyway, like you said, with Matthew. Mm-hmm. He had 3 kids come through the system, Megan, Michael, and Matthew was, all 3 of them to the U.S. Naval Academy, by the way. So him and his wife are raising kids right. He said that might have happened anyway, but he said also it was just as likely that they would have continued to coach.
Yeah.
They both enjoyed it.
When you're on that kind of a run, it's hard to step away.
Yeah.
Unless you're forced to.
And plus, they had it, like, they were dialed in. Like, they had the system.
Yeah.
The key to it, which both men said for the years, was at some point they went to 6 days a week, and the kids bought in, and so year-round they were pretty much going
and that's the
6
thing,
days
too.
a week.
Even if you replace them with other coaches, which the school has, and even if it's a capable coach, a nice coach,
Sure.
someone who can connect with the kids, it will still take time.
Absolutely.
To develop your own reputation, to where if I'm an 8th grader coming up and I have a slight interest in either one of the cross country, winter track, or spring track, and I see the success the program is, and I hear my peers talk about the coach that's involved, I'm more apt to sign up than
Sure.
if I don't have all those elements in play.
And if these guys have the pedigree, and if I go out there, maybe I can win a state title.
Sure, absolutely.
Team or individual.
Well, I'm going to be in good hands.
Right.
Yeah.
The boys cross country, and these numbers are just like made up. The boys cross country team won 8 conference titles in a row.
Just for the record, they are not made up. They just sound made up.
Yeah, good point. 4 straight regional crowns. The girls cross country team won 11 consecutive
And not the same
league
conference. Different conference.
Yeah, and from 2A to 3A.
Sure,
I
sure.
mean,
They put it with West, who's got a great program of themselves.
Right.
So.
Right. In the winter and spring, the boys won 6 titles in both those sports. Girls took 5 of the 6 in the spring. In the regionals, the boys took 7 in a row. Girls won 6 of the last 7. I mean, it just went on and on and on. And it was cool because they each brought something different to the table. Andy was a big-time track and field athlete in high school. He competed at Northern Arizona. He won 6 state titles in high school across the pole vault, the high jump, the long jump, and the hurdles. And then Rico was 30 years in the Marine Corps, finished up his time as a lieutenant colonel. He was a drill instructor, 19 years as an officer. So he brought the hammer. You know, he was the heavy, he was the muscle. Good cop, bad cop, apparently. And Rico was able to play that. I remember talking to some of the kids, and they were like, "Yeah, make sure your stuff is signed. Like if you need to sign something, bring it in, or you're going to be doing up downs." Burpees or whatever.
It was not a come get comfy and don't improve on yourself kind of program.
So, those guys are missed, and what an amazing run. A run like, again, we've never seen in this county before. I suspect the odds of that ever happening again at that level is probably not likely.
No.
It might be a while. And we can actually, if we want to, that was number 9. That was number 9. We can actually to stay on this beat can kind of do a zag here and jump up all the way to number 4.
Oh, okay.
And that is Croatan wins 4 straight Wells Fargo Cups.
For all you West and East fans listening, don't worry, this is the last one.
It's not the Croatan top 10. The number 10 and number 9 were Rico Quispe and Andy Balfour, and number 4 is kind of Rico Quispe and Andy Balfour.
Sure, they
no
play
offense
a pretty
to
big
other
role.
coaches or teams at Croatan.
But you don't win those Wells Fargo Cups without the success of those programs.
And the running programs were what was leading that.
Yeah.
It's hard to overstate how amazing this run Croatan has been on. If you'd have told me, I started at the paper in 2007. If you'd have told me that any county's program was going to win a Wells Fargo Cup, that would have been fantastic. I mean, I would have been like, wow.
Yeah.
But this run that Croatan has been on, if you'd have told me when I started that was going to happen, I wouldn't have believed you.
Well, and this school is only 25 years old,
exactly,
roughly, and they had a great wrestling program when they first started, and some other hits here and there. But I remember I did a column 3 years ago, where I said, you look at a school like West Carteret and East Carteret and Swansboro, and they've been open for a long time, and they've had a long time to build their athletic reputation. To sort of build the lore around those programs. But Croatan is in the middle of that right now. So at the 50-year mark for that school, they're going to look back at these runs as being some of the most significant in the athletic department. This is. I don't want to say this is as good as it gets, but this is pretty good.
Well, not only that, but where Croatan's located,
sure,
and the district they're in, and the towns they're pulling from, you wouldn't think these would be bastions of fantastic student athletes.
Well, I do think when it comes, just for reference, what exactly is the Wells Fargo Cup?
This is a back in the day, people maybe remember. I think they called it the Sears Cup maybe in college, and Carolina has won it a gazillion times because they're kind of like Croatan, where they win at everything. They win at soccer, they win at track and field, they win at baseball. I mean, they're good at everything, and so it's an athletic program. Competition
where they are rewarded for each team and each season's performance, whether they win their conference or win playoff games or win the regional or win state, whatever. And I think part of Croatan has a nice influx of students, and they offer more sports earlier than the other schools in the county. If
I had to make a guess at what happened from when I started, and again, a good athletic program, but I think I note in the story that when they have now finished in the top 5 for 11 straight years.
Yeah.
They took 5th in 13-14, and then they took 3rd 4 years in a row. Compare that to the previous 10 years to this 11-year run. They finished in the top 10 once.
Yeah.
So that was when I started.
Yeah.
I think if I had to make a theory of what's changed is, I think back in the day, if you were a military kid, you went to Lejeune High School. Pretty much. I think at some point that's and maybe somebody in Croatan.
The suburbs of those military installations drifted eastward.
Croatan became a suburb of Lejeune.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hubert went to Swansboro. Swansboro went to Cape Carteret. Cape Carteret went to the western side of Newport and Highway 24. And
I base that, and this is, I have nothing to back it up other than anecdotally, just the student athlete of the week thing.
Sure.
I felt like at some point every kid I talked to at Croatan was a military kid, and it was an officer's kid.
Yeah.
It was some lieutenant colonel's kid.
Well, you're in the middle too, so you could either be, going to Camp Lejeune, or you could be going to Cherry Point.
Sure.
There's routes to both places from that location. I do think the diversity of sports offered is a big part of it. They had lacrosse there before anybody else did.
They did.
They've had. I don't even know if they still have it. They beach volleyball.
Sure. And they're the only one with the girls lacrosse.
That's right. That's right. And so I do, and obviously the running success has also played a big role. That was
huge.
But I mean, you look at the soccer.
That doesn't happen without Balfour and Keys Bay.
Not at all.
Not at all. Now maybe they're finishing in top 5, maybe.
No.
But you're not winning 4 out of 4 in a row.
And even, I mean, that's what gets you over the top.
Right.
I think it's important. I mean, the football team won its first playoff game a couple years back.
Sure.
The soccer team won its first state championship a few years back. So the girls lacrosse team won a state championship team a few years back. This has been a concerted, wildly great performance across the board.
I think maybe another part of it has been stability of coaches. You have somebody like Paul Slater, who has been there for 15 years and plus.
Sure.
Soccer is going to the 3rd or 4th round every year.
Yeah.
Just to give people a heads up on how it works. You get 50 points if anybody in your program wins a state championship. You get 45 for runner-up. If you finish 3rd in the state, you get 40 points. You finish 4th in the state, you get 35, so on and so on. 30 for 5th, 25 for 6th, 20 for 7th, and 15th for 8th. And then you get 5 points every time a team makes the playoffs. So the 50 for the state championships, cross country was winning that, indoors track and field was winning that, spring outdoor, they were winning that. And then you had teams like soccer who's making it to the 3rd or 4th round, so they're getting the 30 or the 40 point, the 20 points or whatever.
Yeah.
You got somebody like Michaela Warsinger in swimming, and they're finishing top 5 every year. She's been there for like 10 years now.
You just brought it, the longevity, I think. Even if you count head coaches who were on that staff, I mean, volleyball, Lindsay's been there forever.
Right.
Football,
Lindsay Gurley, now Lindsay Bach.
Lindsay Bach has been there forever. In football, Andrew Gurley's been there forever.
Yeah.
Michaela Warsinger, you mentioned it.
Right.
I think if you went up and down the list,
David Perry is the only wrestling coach
they've ever had. In 25, 26 years.
And now the school's almost 30 years old.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So it definitely feels like, and I mean, how long, Bolfer and Rico had been there?
They'd been there since 17.
Okay.
So even those guys have started at 7 or 8 years. Yeah.
I definitely think that plays a role in getting your signature on a program.
Absolutely.
And when you get it rolling, I mean, Paul Slater's soccer programs weren't rolling for
a little while.
Took
him a while to get it
time.
going. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So 4 years in a row, phenomenal. Not only 4 years in a row, but some of that was at 2A and some of that was at 3A.
Well, when they switched to 3A, there were beliefs that maybe it wouldn't be so.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And welcome to the big leagues.
And instead, they won that's 3 straight at the 3A level.
Yeah.
So.
The other unbelievable thing, and then kind of like the winter indoor track and field team, they won this year by the most dominant. They beat Lake Norman Charter by 155 points. Yeah, you're right. 3 times at 3A after winning 2A. The other thing that stands out about this is it could be even better because we had the pandemic year. And that was, talking about talent cycles, that was that
group.
Well,
I stand by. That girls' soccer team in the spring would have won a state championship.
That was Kelly Haggerty, Savannah McAloon, Allie Roth.
I'll die on that hill.
Natalie Show. She was basketball. But
sure.
And then they all played volleyball. And they all played soccer.
Yeah.
And I'm probably missing some of the soccer girls that were really good on that team too.
It's interesting. I think this class that's coming up right now, this freshman, sophomore class. That's going to be juniors next year. I think they're very similar in that
They
respect.
are following kind of in that footstep, aren't they?
Where it's just a group of people that tends to be really good athletes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that winter, pandemic hits, so there's no school, there's no sports for the spring, and they end up basically having the Wells Fargo Cup for 2 of the 3 seasons. Croatoan lost by 7.5 points to Carborough.
I remember when Croatan won the first one, Q Tucker showed up from the ANCHSAA
Nice.
with the trophy, and I wonder if she still comes out for when it's 4 straight.
No.
I'm sure she just sends
I haven't
an
seen her in
email.
a long time.
Congratulations.
It was cool when you did it the first time, but now you're doing it every time.
Yeah, now it's become less cool.
Yeah, that and Dave Ball, who is the AD now, I like to joke with him that they didn't win one until he became AD, and he's always very very mindful, very demure.
We'll take credit for that. Absolutely.
He's always very humble. That it's not him. But yeah, that spring they could have won. That Croatan girls soccer team had gone 21-4 the year before
And brought everybody back.
Went to the 4th
Including
round.
Somebody who had been injured. I forget her name.
Everybody was
who had
back.
been injured as a junior.
And then spring is a good time for Croatan. The track and field
Sure.
does well, boys and girls, and baseball is usually pretty good, and is going to go. And then they could have won that year too. So yeah, that's so we'll go back to that was number 4 on our list, and we go back and forth. Where do we place these things? What's the importance? I think the fact that it's 4 times in a row, you're just like, okay,
Yeah.
we're kind of used to you doing.
And we're mindful of the fact that we don't want something to be totally centric on one school or
Right.
one program, but if it's got if the squeeze is worth the juice, then I mean that's what we got to go with.
So number 8 on our list, we'll stay with the track and field. As I used to often write in the columns, if there's 2 things kids can do in Carteret County, it is running and it is wrestling. Don't hate on Carteret County student athletes, because are there any 2 sports that require more toughness, dedication, grit, conditioning than those 2 sports?
I don't want to. I don't know enough about track. I know that wrestling is extremely.
Right.
You are on your own.
Well, cross country, 3.1 miles.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
In the summer and the fall.
That's true.
That's legit. Yeah. So track and field was our number 8 story. That was Tyler Collins, who ended up signing with North Carolina Tar Heels. She also considered NC State Wolfpack and the Duke Blue Devils. But the story that puts her at number 8 isn't the fact that she did that, is that she missed her entire senior year.
Where does she, and real quick, let's talk about why she's a big athlete. She was a high jumping
National champion.
That's right.
2 people in this county's history has won a national championship. She was one of them.
The other one was John Crossley,
John Crossley.
who's been a guest on this podcast. Where does she? I mean, you've been here 15 years? Does she?
No,
is she the
God, I wish.
Is she the
18
oh
now?
goodness? Well, 15 to be nice. Is she the best non-running athlete you've ever heard of or seen? In track? I mean, I know she probably does run, but
You mean since I've been here?
Yeah. I mean, you covered track and cross
because
country far more than
most
I do.
of our state champions have been runners.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Blake Dodges of the world.
Right, John Crossley.
That's right.
Right, a lot of the Croatan kids.
Sure.
Non-runner. That's a good question. Yeah, she's got national champion. She obviously
Well,
has to
sure,
be. But,
sure.
but I'm trying to think of who else is.
I know. I remember when Brendan Hodge graduated, he had like 9 or so.
He was a really good hurdler.
State champions with his different sports, long jumping, triple jumping, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But she's got to be up there in terms of dominant.
We had. Wow, you really caught me. That's tough. At East Carteret, that good girls basketball team with Monica Dixon. Who was the other girl?
Those 2.
She went to App
Two of
State.
them. Yeah.
She was winning state championships like it was her job. Plays, runs at Division I based off of jumping. And God, that's killing me. I can't think of who.
I know. I have caught you. I'll do the research. I caught you off guard.
Why can't I think of her name? That's what happens when you've been at the New Times for 18 years. But yeah, she won a ton of long jump and triple jump. And I think there was a stretch there where she repeated long jump.
CeCe Johnson?
No. Also, there's another one who was also doing that. She also won a ton. And that was a great story because her and, go back to like 18, 19,
Okay,
East Carteret
okay.
girls basketball. CC, remember this story? This was also our top 10 that year. CC and Angela Livingston,
That's the combo I'm thinking of.
they almost won a state championship.
They did,
And
by
they were
like just the two.
And they were the two of them.
Yeah.
That was a great story. But yeah, CC, she's in the mix. She was a really great jumper, long jump and triple jump.
Janera Bryant.
Also, she just had a good run. So Bria Taylor is the person who my old head can't remember. Yeah,
which is crazy because she is one of the premier athletes, girls athletes come through
also
the county.
Give me some credit that
you only covered like 3,500 athletes, JJ.
And she didn't graduate last year. I mean, she's been going for a while, but yeah, she won state titles in long jump and triple jump. So yeah, but yeah, you're right. Non running. She for all intents and purposes, Tyler Collins is the Blake Dodge of Carteret County.
Well, and too, when you're that good and you announce that you're gonna sit out the season, there are other athletes who say, "Oh, this is my opportunity."
Sure.
We had a young lady at Swansboro, McKenna Panos, who does not win a winter state title without that little helping hand. I mean, she was the best in the state, but the height that she cleared wasn't Tyler Collins' height.
Well, I don't feel. And I should, I guess. I don't feel bad for Tyler because she got all the flowers she ever could have gotten as far as she won a national championship. She was a runner-up in the national championship. She won state titles. Like, whoa. She had a great high school career.
In fact, you could make the argument that outside of the will to compete and the want to be out there, maybe it's a good thing. You have no chance of showing that that you couldn't be as good at that level.
She went out on top.
That's right.
Well, and the signing story I did on her and her coach, Marshall Windsor, who's now coaching like 55 years. Both said it wasn't the worst thing. Maybe her body was starting to really take some beatings,
and now you get to take a respite before you go to college, where it's going to get much more intense.
She hit the weight room apparently that year. Nice. She got bigger, stronger. Stuff she wasn't, because you're not able to hit the weight room hard when you're constantly doing high jump,
and especially when you already know that you have a landing spot in college.
It's taken care of.
Yeah,
right. She won. What was it? 13, I think. Yeah, 13 gold medals. She won 3 silvers and 2 bronzes across indoor and outdoor meets.
That's wild.
And that's really her 2 years, sophomore and junior year, because her career ended with an injury and it began with an injury. She's kind of a phenomenal story. She's a dancer. She's not a track and field person. And then freshman year, she says, okay, I'm going to do something competitive. I'm going to do something in athletics. And I'm going to go try out. And like first day of practice, she goes to do a high jump and tears her avulsion fracture of her hip or whatever, and misses her entire freshman year. Comes out sophomore year, and boom, state title, winter track. First year really competing as a student athlete.
No, I do hear it runs in the family.
Dad was quite the jumper.
That's Wes Collins there.
Wes Collins. Won a lot of dunk contests back in the day. He played at Furman, I believe it was. Right. I hope I've got that right. And played with Jerry Stackhouse at Kinston.
No, that is because the brother Kaysen went there.
That's right.
You're right.
Played with Jerry Stackhouse at Kinston. So, he won a dunk contest in Belgium. He won dunk contests across the country. So that's that side. And then on her mom's side, her grandfather was a starting quarterback for Carolina in the 60s.
That's excellent.
Her mom was the captain of the dance team at Carolina. Wow. Her mom's sister was a cheerleader. Her mom's brothers each played safety at Carolina. So, yeah, that family, she got some good genes.
Wow.
In that family. The reason I put her at number 8 and on the top 10 was phenomenal athlete, and her missing senior year is a big deal. But, again, I don't feel so much bad for her as I do us.
Not getting a chance to report on it.
That's true. And the county.
That's true.
We don't get to witness great. You always want to witness greatness.
That's how I felt about the COVID year too, where it's like I do feel bad that you all cannot play, absolutely, but I also feel bad for me, who wanted to cover what was going to happen.
Right.
Yeah,
well, you want to again witness greatness.
Sure.
And you don't get a chance to do that.
Well, when it's your job,
you
only get so many times to really watch greatness.
Well, it's a perfect segue into number 7 on our top 10 list of greatness. We had a hoops trio at East Carteret who, it would be like, I was trying to think of what to compare this to. It would be like if at Croatan, it would be like if Ashley Williams and Kelly Haggerty were in the same class.
Sure.
At West Carteret, it would be like if Jackson Ellingsworth and
You're talking about the male and female player.
and Grace Tulovich were in the same class.
I see.
But we had three at East Carteret. We had Shamel Baker, Charles Matheka, and Tanzania Locklear. Three. If you have the greatest boys basketball players of all time at East Carteret, those two boys are in the top 5, 7, 10. I don't know where you want to put them. That's saying something at East Carteret because they play some ball at East Carteret.
They can.
And Tanzania is definitely top 5 girls.
Oh, 100%.
And they're all in the same class.
That's great.
That's crazy.
And I mean, the beginning of that season, I think I sat in this chair and said that I thought both of those teams were going to go undefeated in the regular season. Like, it just felt that
the girls
ridiculously
said
one-sided.
Girls were going undefeated.
Yeah, I think I had one loss maybe for the boys or something like that. But you're talking about game-changing athletes who, gave us some great moments.
What kind of career does Shamel Baker have? Well, only one person in the history of this county has scored more points than him.
Wow.
That would be Jock Brown. He scored 2,042. Shamel Baker scored 2,017. So he did not miss him by much. And in a different world, Shamel Baker is the all-time leading scorer in county history because, as we have already mentioned, there was the coronavirus pandemic.
Sure.
And that knocked them down to
half the games.
Yeah, about half the games.
Yeah.
So
at a different time of year as well.
Even if he scored, I mean, he was 27, 37, like 25 points off.
Yeah.
He just needed 25 points.
Oh, that's a game.
Yeah.
Or two.
For Shamel Baker.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just the numbers they put up. He averaged 16.5 points as a freshman. We don't see that very often.
No.
Sophomore year, he's up to 23. Junior year, he's at 24. 25 as senior. Charles, kind of the same thing. Sophomore year, Charles is averaging 17. He's at 22 as a junior. He's at 23 as a senior. And then Tanzania, who came in 16 as a freshman, 18 as a sophomore, 26 as a junior.
That's crazy.
Went down to 19 as a senior. They won and won and won. In her 3 seasons, final seasons, they went 29-1 in conference. They went 63-9 overall.
63-9 is more impressive than people realize.
Wow, 9 games they lost in 3
9
years.
games. Like, the boys also won 66 games.
To quote Ferris Bueller, 9 times.
9 times.
Yeah. They are the first team in school history to win 3 titles in a row.
That's right.
League titles. She joined Kim Oden at East Carteret, 85-87. West Carteret's Mindy Ballou, 80-82. The only 3 girls to ever win 3 News Times Players of the Year. Charles and Shamel go 37-3 in conference in their time in a varsity uniform, 66-23 overall. They won 4 straight titles. Just unbelievable, the fact that those 3 were all in a senior class together.
I'm curious, how do you think they'll be looked at in 5 years compared to
they didn't have
the other era?
They didn't have the postseason success.
The other recent era. Because I feel like if they had come 5 years later than they came, they might be looked at a little bit differently. But it's really tough to come on, not quite the heels of, but very closely after.
The best class ever, or the best group ever, not class. Right.
It would be like if a group like that had come through after, you mentioned the group from Croatan with the Haggerty and the Roth. And
somebody follows that.
Yeah, like it's really tough to match that.
They had big shoes to fill.
You're
right.
And I mean, when you look at the numbers, there's no denying.
Right.
That is an incredible run.
And they made the 3rd round, the boys did, every year.
Yeah.
Which is hard to do.
It's very hard to do.
But following state championships, right. You're right. Had that not happened, they're probably in a more of an elevated space.
I think so.
And even as good as they are.
But you bring up a good point that all 3 were in the same class.
It's crazy.
Which is,
it's crazy.
Tough when they leave.
Also, and this is another what if. We're bringing up a lot of what ifs on here. A couple years ago, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association decides that my theory is they did it because of the charter school issue, where charters and non-traditionals like Catholic schools, magnet schools, whatever you want to put underneath this title of non-traditional, were winning state titles at kind of a extraordinary rate. And so the NCHSAA a few years ago decides that instead of just enrollment, we are going to change realignment to include your competition, how you competed at the Wells Fargo Cup level, where you finished, and also free and reduced school lunch. So now it's a 3 kind of a prong deal. And so everybody kind of got changed to where they normally would be. East Carteret is traditionally, for about the past, I think it was 18 years maybe, had been a 1A program, and they got bumped up to 2A. I think they were the smallest traditional 2A school in the state.
It's not getting bigger.
And no, East Carteret is not the population is not getting better there. And not only were I think the smallest 2A school in the state, but there were a lot of teams that were in 1A that had less more kids than them. So they definitely should have been 1A. If Shamel Baker and Charles Matheka are competing at the 1A level, maybe we saw, I don't know about a state title, but we could saw regional teams going to Fayetteville, competing for a state title. But they were in 2A, which Farmville Central is in 2A. And nobody's doing anything in 2A anymore as long as Farmville Central is competing at the level they were doing. So that's another what if. And the girls too. I remember I broke it down some years, and had East Carteret been in the 1A bracket, I think the girls could have played in maybe a state title, maybe regionals. So that's another what if. But man, unbelievable.
Well, and just to back up real quick on my statement, just let me hedge my bet real quick. I do want to point out the uniqueness of this group that just came through. The state title run group was an incredible group.
Right.
There's no question. That's the legacy group.
Right.
But just to point out that team that last year, the year that they won, they had gone 32-1 or 31-1 the year before. The year they won, they finished 28-2. The very next year, they go 26-3. They lost Ty. They lost Jock. They lost Sam. Now they did have Jack Garrison. They had Deshaun,
Trevor Willis.
They had Trevor Willis.
Right. Deshaun Johnson.
Over. But just to show you that they had lost this group, this legacy group, and still went 26-3 the next year, went 19-10 the next year after that.
We're able to keep it going.
What happens when you lose
Charles and
Shamel? You go 1-6 so far.
Right.
That's different. The value that those guys had on that program was incredible, and it's the same with the girls. The girls are struggling as well without Tanzania.
They haven't won a game. And maybe that will. The question that you asked earlier was, how will they be remembered 5 or 10 years from now?
Right. Maybe that if the program continues to struggle, you might say, "Wow,
oh my God,
look what we had."
Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to compare how good something is compared to something else good when all things have been good.
That's right.
East Carteret basketball hasn't had a losing season in a long, long time.
That's right.
So if you do have one, suddenly you look at that last thing you had as even better.
Yeah. Number 6 on our list is a guy who makes the top 10 probably he's been doing this, I think, since he was 6 or 7 years old. So I don't know if he's been on the top 10 every year since then, but actually I think he started when he was 4. At number 6, a guy who's been doing it. He's been doing it forever, and we've had him on the top 10 a lot. That is Cooper Webb, who was our only, at this time, unless I'm missing somebody, our only professional athlete.
If we are missing somebody, please let us know immediately.
Contact the News Times.
We would like to cover that.
Well, we almost did have somebody.
That's on the list too.
That's on the list too.
That's right.
But yeah, Cooper Webb, amazing. This is the best of the best of dirt bike riders in the world, not the United States, the world. He is up there. He was the runner-up in Supercross, which phenomenal. He won in 2019. He won in 2021. He was a runner-up in 2020. This year he was a runner-up. He and did that this year with an injury. His thumb, I think I didn't mention this in the story because I didn't want to make people queasy, but he had an injury where at one point during the season when he fell, the tip of his thumb touched his forearm.
Ugh, that's no good. That's not the way.
That's not the way it's supposed to go. And tore the ulnar collateral ligament. And he missed the entire pro motocross championship season following that. So the fact that he was able to finish as the runner-up with a thumb like that, not great. Newport's own. And Morehead City can also take credit.
Well, if you are from here, we all remember this was the 5-year-old, the 4-year-old,
right,
who was running a little dirt bike, a little 4-wheeler on that little dirt track out in front of Action Surf Shop, where I think now is the Verizon store or whatever.
Okay.
This was like people grew up watching this kid
Right.
develop and become the motocross guy he is today.
Yeah, he is unbelievable, and we should, as you were just talking about, enjoying things while you can. Enjoy it while we can. I think old Coop is starting to get a little bit older. He's not the young rookie anymore. I think I don't know off the top of my head how old he is. I think he's 27.
I was going to say, do you know how old he is?
I think he's 27, 28 or something.
That tracks.
In that sport, you're starting to get a little bit old.
Sure.
Those guys are beat up.
Yeah.
Cooper has, I don't know how many broken bones he has and how many concussions he suffered, but it starts to add up mighty quick. Those are dog.
He's 30
wow.
this year. So
and those are dog years in that sport.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So kudos to Cooper. The fact that we have him at number 6 as a Supercross runner-up, he could be number 1, 2, or 3 every year, but it becomes old hat because the kid's been doing it now for 25 years.
And just looking it up here, the oldest motocross or Supercross driver ever was 40. So,
and that was probably
and it was a thing that was
Tom Brady situation.
It was.
Yeah, that doesn't happen all the time. All right, moving on to another. Cooper Webb was at one time a West Carteret kid before he started doing the homeschooling, so we'll stay on the West Carteret beat. At number 5, we saw a volleyball season that we don't see too much often around here. West Carteret makes it to the regional finals, and it had been a while since they'd done that.
36 years.
Zach Nally, were you alive the last time a county team made the regional final?
I turned 36 last a couple months ago, so maybe not.
Oh.
It would have been the fall right after. Oh,
wow.
Was it 88?
88.
Oh, so I had just been born.
Oh, nice.
See, I brought the good luck to the program.
Yeah, and as far as I know, unless, again, somebody wants to contact us and let us know, that's the only 2 times a county team has been to the regional finals.
And it was one of those things where coming into the season, there was definitely a pointing to, hey.
Also guest on the Paper Boys podcast.
We had them on because they were confident in their ability, and they were right to be confident. And again, you talking about when you've been doing this job for a long time, you don't get a chance to see great teams, great athletes, but every once in a while. And that was one of them.
We had Michael Turner, Zoe Bailey, Rachel Chambers, and they were all like, we want to win a state title.
Well, they were all business.
And man, they go to the regional final, and they go to J.H. Rose, and they win the first set. And we're like, oh, here we go. They said they were going to win a state title, or go. They might, and they lose the next 3. But man, regional final, you're in the Final Four. That's phenomenal.
At the 3A level, no less.
Yeah. We mentioned Zoe Bailey and Rachel Chambers, who came on with Michael Turner. Mary Beth Garrison was a part of that group. Anderson Day, Riley Williams, Sadie Pruitt, Molly Scott Cottrell. I'm hoping I'm saying her last name the way she pronounces it. Chloe Lewis. I should have all this in front of me so I don't miss anybody. Rodriguez, just a phenomenal. They had 11 seniors, and we were like, okay, that's going to Alpha team that had lost four games the year before, so we were like, they're going to be pretty good. Hubbard Stack, Addie Jackson, I don't want to miss anybody. Ella Grace Rodriguez, Molly Scott Cottrell. Yeah, that's pretty much everybody.
This is a team. West Carteret finished number 11 in the state across all of the classifications
For Max Preps?
Yeah.
That's their final ranking.
Number 11 in the state.
Out of
400. Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Pretty good. All right, goodness. So we did number 4 already, so we can jump up to, now we're down to the final 3. Number 3 was, we said we only had 1 professional athlete in Carteret County. We almost had 2, and this is one of the craziest stories.
It's really hard to put into perspective unless you were there. This kid was a gifted athlete in high school, certainly.
David Wallace, former Croatan football player, who, while he was at Croatan, was 5'11", 160.
Yeah.
And of all the people you've ever said might turn out to be an NFL player, David Wallace probably would not have made your top 10.
No. I don't want to say Rudy Rudiger, but you just typically don't see that size excel in college football.
He was slight for high
the
school.
NFL. Yeah.
He gets 1 scholarship offer out of high school.
Right.
Division III, Randolph-Macon.
Yeah.
That's it. Goes there and shines.
Shatters records.
As a wide receiver, a position he did not really play in high school.
Well, that's what I was going to say. He's coming from a Croatan program where it was
that time,
power running football.
Yeah.
So 160 person
wide receiver
who occasionally runs some sweeps or runs a couple routes.
Right.
It was very shocking to see him do what he did in college. And then he gets out of college and he gets an invitation to go compete in training camp for the New England Patriots. When's the last time we had an NFL player go to training camp and compete for a spot? I mean, I think Matt Dodge was somebody coming out of college. I mean, he was drafted.
Right.
So that was a little bit different.
Sure.
Who was the kid at Swansboro?
The went to Penn State.
That's right. That's right. I think that was also a drafted situation. Or no, you know what? He was somebody that competed in training camp. So this is a rare situation. And I mean, had a kickoff return that was pretty impressive in that first preseason game.
Well, then you're like, okay, so big deal. He gets DeAndre Tompkins.
That's it. Thank you.
So then you're like, okay, he gets the invitation. We'll see how long this lasts.
Sure.
He'll be in camp a week. And then he starts playing these preseason games, and he's returning, like you said, he's returning kickoffs 50 yards. He's returning punts 20 or 30 yards. And he's a special team standout. Yeah, and it gets to the point where you're like, this is going to happen. He's going to make the roster.
It did not
Or
happen.
at least practice squad.
Sure.
That was a lot of the talk.
Sure.
A lot of the stories you read in the newspapers.
You're in the
there.
mix.
He got to the final cut.
Yeah.
And he didn't make the final cut.
What do you think? I mean, obviously for David Wallace, that was not the end result he wanted.
Right.
I know he was
Wallace,
disappointed.
Wallis.
That's right. That's right. I know he was disappointed, but
not to be confused with The Office.
David Wallace, CFO. I think if anything comes out of this, if I'm a high school athlete in Carteret County,
oh my gosh,
and I'm 170 pounds, 160 pounds, and I don't have much size, you cannot tell me that I don't have a chance.
Don't nobody tell me nothing.
Because that kid showed that if you've got the heart and the ability and the work ethic, you can get some things done.
And the first story I wrote when he got the invite was that he said when he was in high school, he thought he wanted to play in the NFL.
Right, and I mean,
he said, I didn't share that belief with anybody because people said I was insane.
And you've had athletes tell you that belief to your face where you're thinking, well...
I've had a lot of stories. I do Student Athlete of the Week for 15, 16 years now, where I ask kids, it doesn't happen as much now, but back in the day, people would be like, I want to play, if they were basketball, I want to play in the ACC. I'm like, I'm not putting that in the story.
Sure.
You sound like a crazy person.
Right. You're running a 4.840. It's not.
You're averaging 14 points a game in 1A. Come on, man.
Yeah.
I can't put that in the story.
And nothing, again, a good athlete, but I didn't see anything at the high school level that said NFL.
Or even Division II.
So what that further says is that, let's say you get a chance to go compete at the Division III or the Division II level. If you have a chance to continue working and continue getting better,
sure,
you don't know what the end result could be.
Absolutely. Keep it going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, well, I wasn't the best at this or that in high school, so it's over.
Right.
There's still time to grow and get better.
Also find a niche, man. It was special teams.
Absolutely.
Almost got him an NFL contract.
We got us a Division I special teams player right here. I mean, this is if you have the heart and you want to keep playing the game that you love, you can find a home.
He said, if you want to do something great in this world, you have to be a little crazy and delusional.
There you go.
I was like, that's fantastic.
There you go.
There's my top quote for that story.
Well,
right
we
there.
do hear that about athletes who end up in the pros. They say, I had to. I mean, we had Lonnie Chisenhall in here, who said, I had to believe against all odds.
He said there was no plan B.
No, this is it.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a great story. He's down in Alabama. I think that's where his family is now, and he was waiting tables at La Esquina in his hometown of Huntsville, Alabama, and got a phone call.
Wow.
And he went to his boss, and he was like,
I gotta go.
And he said he went to the back of the restaurant and cried.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
And I think, even if it didn't have the result he wanted, he'll look back at that opportunity. And
who has that story?
Oh man,
how many people have that story?
And
I was in training
camp.
Not
just to sit, but again, not just in training camp. He was on TV, running kicks back, in a way that made people who knew him, feel very proud.
We should mention it was the New England Patriots. I don't think we mentioned that yet.
I think we did at the very beginning, but you're right.
But
New England Patriots.
Just a phenomenal. That could have been number one. And these are so hard. Where do you rank people? Had he have made a team, I think we would have put him at number one. Probably.
Yeah.
The fact that he got the final cut. But
that's a team that's looking at the number one draft pick. Maybe they could have used some help.
Maybe they should have kept David Wallace.
That's right.
Hey, his story might not be finished.
Absolutely.
He might go to camp next year. We'll see. All right, we'll stay on the football deal.
Another athlete that may end up competing in a training camp somewhere.
One day, you never know. Jalen Hewitt, who, statistically speaking, is the greatest quarterback in Carteret County history.
That's
statistically
wild
speaking.
to me.
He played football his junior year at West, and then was playing basketball, and then a couple games into the basketball season said, I'm transferring to Havelock.
Well, and to be fair, as the reporters on the reporter side of these things, he did not come out and say, I'm going to Havelock. One day you went to a game, and he's just not there.
Right.
He's just gone.
Right.
The locker's cleared out.
Right.
The car's not in the parking lot.
Well, because basketball season is when the semesters
That's right.
go from fall to spring, and so if he was going to do it, that's when he had to do it. Apparently, I think his mom moved to Havelock, or there was some situation there where he had the opportunity. He was asked, do you want to do it? And look, you play football in the 252 area code, and somebody says you got opportunity to play for Havelock Rams. You can't begrudge any kid taking that opportunity.
Not at all.
And we've seen a lot of Carteret County kids take that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, at West and East Carteret. He goes to Havelock, and Havelock has a great year. They go 12-2, and they go to the fourth round.
Yeah.
Havelock has, for them, it's kind of been wild. They struggle to get back to a state title. I think it's like 17 now is the last time they went. I might have that wrong. I think I had that in one.
It's been a while.
Yeah. But,
despite every year being in the mix.
Right. But he goes to Havelock, and just he was already one of the most prolific passers in the state at West. His junior year, he was fifth in the state in yards per game. It was like 294. He was 13th in overall passing yards. He was 3,200. He was 15 in passing touchdowns with 35. But then he goes to Havelock, and
where it goes even bigger.
Oh my God!
I mean, he leads the state with 4,600 passing yards. The next closest passer was 600 yards less. He ranks third with 43 touchdowns. The question that I have though is, does Raff have those numbers?
He goes by Raff.
Okay, yes, because he was very tall as a sophomore.
Short for giraffe.
That's right.
Right.
And if he stays at West Carteret, does he put up those same numbers? Because Tanner Payne put up some pretty solid numbers at West Carteret this year.
Well, the funny thing was that was the rare, like a trade or a free agent signing or something. That was the rare win-win.
Sure.
Because
West Carteret still gets a quarterback that can get the job done.
Who had a fantastic junior year, and now he gets to come. You get him for another year.
Yeah.
I don't know as good as Jalen, and you just gave the numbers, which are lights out. If he stays at West, I don't know if they're
as good. Yeah.
I don't know if the West's record is that different.
Well, and the reason you go to Havelock, and it's happened many times, especially from West Carteret. You go there for the exposure. You go there because we live in East North Carolina,
That's right,
where recruiters are not coming out and watching a lot of games, but they are going to Havelock. And if you can have a chance to go there and be seen as one of 10 Division I prospects versus the only one in the mix out here.
Yeah, ask the county coaches how hard it is to get
it's
people
very
to come.
tough. And I mean, it's more digital these days with Huddle and things like that, but there's still the reputation. You know that colleges are saying, hey, who's come out of Havelock this year? Is there anybody we should be looking at?
Not only Havelock, but you're going to be playing at G.H. Rose.
So it's
an easy drive from Raleigh to Greenville.
It is.
You're going to be playing at South Central.
You're playing high-profile teams.
Right. They play Tarboro this year.
Absolutely.
I said Havelock hadn't been to a state title since 17. I was way off on that. It was 21. But even for Havelock, the fact that 21, that's a long time.
It's a really funny situation because you have to wonder, does Havelock do as well without Jalen? Does Jalen do as well without Havelock?
Sure.
I don't know if it's that big of a drop-off for either one. But like you said, it's a win-win.
It's win-win.
He goes to a place where he can get more exposure. And he had a chance at a state championship.
Unreal numbers.
Yeah. And here's the and no disrespect to our county programs. We love these programs. We cover them. If he had those numbers at West Carteret's not making a state title run with him.
And not only that, I don't. Are college coaches even going to come see him, even with those numbers?
I don't think so.
Just because it's Carteret County, and they're not.
You're not playing those same high-profile.
That's
programs.
right.
Yeah,
that's right. So. Kudos to Jalen. We wish him well. Good luck. Hopefully,
we'll be watching to see
where he plays in college ball. And good deal for West. Tanner Payne we get to follow him for another year, and just good all the way around.
Yeah.
Number one, it's always number one. I know it's boring, but
I mean, if you ask anybody, what is the sporting event that Carteret County or Crystal Coast or Eastern North Carolina? And maybe
you've done the research. Where does it rank
in terms of
nationally?
And we're talking about the Big Rock Blue
Marlin tournament.
In terms of Blue Marlin tournaments, it's up there, if not number one. I mean,
Maryland is probably number one, right?
Well, you're talking about the White Marlin Open in Maryland and Ocean City, and that is really they've been neck and neck in their increases since 2019, 2018. It's still a little bit bigger. It's a little bit
Their purse
different
is
because there's like quadruple the boats involved. And then you still have some of the legacy tournaments in the Bermuda,
Florida,
and the Bahamas. But I think that, the Big Rock has put this little corner of the state on the map for right now, and those circles. It's not corporate.
It's not
in the way that it's operated.
It's not hyperbole to suggest it's one of the top 5 biggest marlin tournaments in the state, in the country.
No, in the world.
In the world.
Oh, no, in the world.
In the world.
Oh, 100%.
Right. So that's the reason it's number 1 on our list every year.
Yeah, I mean,
come on.
It's in terms of things we cover. There's not going to be a boys soccer game or a football game that we cover where somebody wins $1 million or 3.
Right.
So,
or the top 3 all win $1 million.
There you go. That happened this year.
Yeah.
So, but obviously this year was a little bit special.
Well, and let me interject there. It's not going to be number 1 if it's boring.
I can't imagine. Well, that's not true. I've covered a few boring Big Rocks.
But I'm saying we wouldn't have it number 1 on our top 10.
No, it would be in the top 10.
Yeah, it
because
would.
It's Big Rock.
Exactly. It'd be top, but it wouldn't be number 1.
Right. But
we do try to have some, delineation between just because it's Big Rock, we're not going to put it number 1 every year. It has to have something. To Big Rock's credit, they always deliver.
Absolutely.
Every year it's big. The joke we used to have at the News Times was it's always bigger and better at Big Rock. Well, it became a joke because it was always bigger and better. And this year, as you were getting ready to say, I'll let you return to, it was a great, dramatic, fantastic year.
Yeah, we didn't have the big $4 million winner that I think maybe everyone was kind of hoping that would happen, or $3 million winner, whatever that number is. But we did have $3 million boats, and one of them was not local. That was Game Time from Juniper, Florida. They won with a 516-pound marlin. But you also had Release from Hatteras with Captain Ron Whitaker. Those guys won $1.7 million, which I think was, Game Time won 1.8. Release wins 1.7, and then Builder's Choice with Brent Gaskell wins.
Harker's Island native.
Yeah, also wins 1.8, I think, or maybe they won. I think they won a little bit more than that.
Yeah, 1.8.
It's the first time in sport fishing tournament history, according to Big Rock, that the top 3 teams each won over 1.8.
So you're going to be number 1 on our list. If you do something that never's been done before.
$1.8 million for 3 different teams in the same tournament is
in little old Carteret County, North Carolina.
It's ridiculous. And this year they had 302 boats, which that number's not really going to go up too much until
we're kind of boxed in.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of spaces for those boats to fish out of. But the purse was $7.5 million.
And just a few years ago, it was what, 3 or 4?
Yeah, 2. I mean,
it wasn't that long ago. It was 1 or 2.
Yeah. It's outlandish. The first $1 million winner I think was 2017 with Runoff. So the fact that we're now at 3 winning $1 million, almost $2 million between the 3 of them. It's phenomenal. And obviously, the local boats, Ron Whitaker, Brent Gaskell, we had both those guys on the podcast.
Great.
We got a chance to talk to Brent before the tournament even started.
Right.
And now
Marlin Masters, check it out.
That's right.
Where you find your podcast.
CarolinaCoastOnline.com/podcast. But also, I don't know if you know that Brent Gaskell is now on the board.
I know.
So this is somebody who the tournament is endeared to.
Sure.
This is somebody who...
And we should admit, the Huddle family is also well known in sport fishing
Harris
circles.
Huddle and his family, absolutely. Yeah. And so it makes it a lot of fun when I don't want to say a child of the tournament, but
well, we like to see locals do well.
You do, and not just locals, but somebody who was raised on the Big Rock.
Sure.
And a family like the Harris family who's been around it for a long time.
Yeah. And the Ron Whitaker deal, that was a special deal. The reaction that he got when
and we brought him in, and this is a guy who was working corporate for Coca-Cola, and wanted to leave it all behind, sell everything they had, move to a fishing shack on the Outer Banks, and start running a charter business, which is not a glamorous, fun thing to do unless you love it.
Yeah,
and what a payoff,
man! Couldn't
happen to a better group of people this year.
If you want to check out an old Paper Boys episode, him and his wife came in and talked to us.
Yeah, well, it was right after the tournament, and it was a tremendous story. That they had.
Gosh!
Yeah,
and then Brent Gaskell, the final day of the tournament, they're third place. They're either going to win $1.8 million or they're going to win nothing. And they have 4 boats come in that day.
Yeah, it was a big slog of boats that came through,
and it was way in, and eventually Brent's just like, I can't take it anymore. I'm going home. His wife Margaret's out down there, and the crew's down there, and they're like, And then that final vote came in. Finally, it's like, this is it. And weighed in, and they just needed to beat, what was it, 431 pounds, I think. And they missed it by like 5 pounds, I think.
Well, yeah, three of them didn't even hit 400 pounds.
But
Because you're desperate in that last.
The last one was like 5 pounds short, I think.
Yeah. And it was a meal away.
And that's right. And everybody's hugging and screaming, and it's just, man, Big Rock, you can't buy that type of.
Yeah, and if you want to hear more about either of those stories, Ron Whitaker in the release or Brent Gaskell, and because we had Brent and Harris on after.
Oh, that's right. They were on Paper Boys too.
Yeah,
that's right.
Check those episodes out right after. I mean,
Good stuff.
Truly incredible stories and humble folks who got what they deserved.
You know what's funny is every year we do this top 10 list, and I think my first reaction is if something doesn't jump out, like we didn't have a state championship team,
right?
Which we did have. Croatan cross country, I think, won.
Right, but I know what you mean.
But there's something that really just
the soccer, the volleyball, the football, the basketball,
the team sports that
lacrosse,
we're more prone to follow. I'm just like, oh man, it wasn't a great. Every year I feel like when we don't have that, I'm like, oh, it wasn't a big year.
And then you sit down and do the top 10 list.
Oh my God. It's always something.
Yeah.
We do pretty well here for a small county.
And stay tuned. I think the next episode we're going to look at what could be the top 10 stories for 2025.
We look back, now we're going to look forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.